Hey, book lovers. I'm Katie Dodrell, and on today's episode of While I Read, I'll be recommending thrillers that are great to read in the summer. My main qualification for a good summer mystery or thriller is that it's a quick page turner with some surprising twist. I also really like it if it takes place during the summer, maybe on the beach or in some exotic location. I'm dividing the books that I'll talk about today into three categories: books that are set on boats or ships, books that take place on a beach or some exotic tropical location, and books that just take place during the summer. First, let's talk about books that have a summery vibe because they take place on a boat or a ship. The first book that I'll talk about in this category is The Blue by Lucy Clark. Lucy Clark writes what are known as destination thrillers. Basically, books where the characters go to some exotic location and exciting things happen. I've read several of her destination thrillers and really enjoyed them. The Blue is about a young woman named Lena who is traveling in the Philippines with her best friend Kitty. Lena and Kitty end up on a yacht that is sailing from the Philippines to New Zealand. The others on the yacht are young travelers like Lena and Kitty who just want the adventure of a long sea journey. They work together to crew the yacht, and there are beautiful descriptions of the sparkling seas and the exotic islands that they visit as they sail. It's just sort of a magical book to read with all of the gorgeous descriptions that it has. Of course, they become friends with the other crew members of the yacht, some romances develop, but then one of the crew members disappears overboard. Lena and Kitty, as well as some of the other crew members on the boat, have secrets that are revealed. This book has beautiful, evocative descriptions. It's set on a boat going to exotic locations, and it has some great twists. It's a really good book to read for the summer. The next book in the boats or ships category is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. Reckless Girls is about a young woman named Lux who sails with her boyfriend from Hawaii to an uninhabited island off the coast called Moreau. The island is an exotic paradise with a dark history. Apparently, there have been shipwrecks there. People stuck on the island have resorted to cannibalism, and there may have even been murders there. Two passengers sailed to the island with Lux and her boyfriend, college girls who just wanted adventure. When they arrive on Moreau, they find a luxury catamaran already there, owned by a rich couple who just want to party. So for a while, they all have a peaceful existence, exploring this lush tropical island, swimming in the ocean, and drinking and partying under the stars every night. Then another man shows up on the island, and problems start cropping up. Everyone there has secrets, and the group starts fighting. Then someone ends up missing and someone else ends up dead. This was a fun, fast-paced book, again with beautiful, exotic scenery and great twist. Another fun summer boat read. The third and final book in the category of books set on boats is The Traitor by Ava Glass. The Traitor is number 2 in the Alias Emma series. The first book in that series was number 1 on my top 10 list of the best books I read in 2023. And The Traitor was also really good. It's about a spy named Emma Makepeace, which of course is her alias, who goes undercover on a super yacht belonging to a Russian oligarch, sailing from the Côte d'Azur to Monaco. Emma is pretending to work as a crew member on the yacht, but she's really investigating the oligarch's role in the death of an MI6 operative. This book is fast paced and action packed. It has great descriptions of Emma's life working on the yacht, and it's very suspenseful as it describes Emma's efforts to stay ahead of this man who will definitely kill her if he catches her. This is the second book in the series, but you could easily read this one first. If you do that, though, I bet you'll want to go back and read the first one in the series. Next, I'll talk about my second category for good summer reads, and that is books set on beaches or other exotic locations. The first book I'll talk about in this category is The Retreat by Sarah Peirce. This is the second book in her Detective Elin Warner series. I didn't like the first book, The Sanatorium, even though a lot of people did. It just wasn't my cup of tea. It was too gory and too violent for me. I'm not sure why I decided to read The Retreat when I didn't like the first book. Probably because I'm a sucker for a book that's set on an island. The Retreat is set at an eco wellness retreat that's just opened off the coast of England. Detective Elin Warner arrives to investigate a seemingly accidental death. But while she's there, another death happens that might be an accident, but Elin starts to suspect that both deaths are actually murders. The island has a dark history because a serial killer once committed murders there. Elin has to figure out if the deaths are accidental or murders, and if they have anything to do with the island's history. This book has great description of the island's scenery, and Elin is a complex character who I couldn't help rooting for. It's an exciting read set in an exotic place, making it the perfect summer book. The next book in my beach category is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. It's about a woman named Emma who is house sitting in a beach house on the Washington coast. Emma lives a pretty isolated life. She has a golden retriever, but she has very little contact with other people. She does have a neighbor who she communicates with by holding signs up to the windows of her house. They write notes to each other that way. She also texts back and forth with the owner that she's house sitting for. Otherwise, she has no human contact. We find out during the book that Emma has some secrets, some tragedies that have caused her to isolate herself. Emma reads a lot, and one day she reads this terrible horror book. It's just awful. And so she gives it a 1-star review and writes a really bad review of it online. The author of the book replies to her review and asks her to take it down. And so they go back and forth online for a while, and he ends up threatening her. And she thinks that's the end of it. But then strange things start happening in the house where she's living. She starts to think that the author might be stalking her. The book has beautiful descriptions of the rain-soaked beach where Emma's living. It's very funny, and it has some pretty cool twists in it. It is a little violent and gory, so if you don't like that kind of thing, you might not like this book. This was much less gory than the other book that I tried to read by Taylor Adams called No Exit. I couldn't get through that one. But The Last Word I read and enjoyed. I liked the character of Emma. I liked the setting. The book was very exciting and suspenseful. And it's also just a really good summer beach read. The next book I'll talk about in the beach category is A Caribbean Mystery by Agatha Christie. A Caribbean Mystery is the 10th book to feature Agatha Christie's popular old lady sleuth, Miss Marple. I actually don't like Miss Marple quite as much as I do Poirot, but you can't help liking Miss Marple. She's a great sleuth. In this book, Miss Marple is on vacation on a beautiful resort in the Caribbean. One of the other guests at the resort is a garrulous old colonel who loves to talk to his fellow guests and bores them to death with his stories. One day, the colonel tells Miss Marple that he's sure he's seen a murderer that he recognizes from his past. The next day, the colonel is dead, and another death soon follows. Of course, Miss Marple starts investigating and finds that everyone on the resort has secrets that they're hiding. But they can't hide them for long when Miss Marple is trying to find out. Of course, Miss Marple is able to solve the mystery and figure out who the murderer is, how the colonel recognized this person, and why the colonel had to die. This book has great descriptions of the beautiful Caribbean scenery. It's a nice mystery. It's a fun book to read in the summer. The next book I'll talk about in the beach category is The Stormy Petrol by Mary Stewart. I've talked about Mary Stewart here before. The Stormy Petrol, I think, was the second book that I read by her after I read my all-time favorite book, Thorny Hold. The Stormy Petrol is one of her later books. She started writing in the 1950s, and this book was published in 1995. It's about a Cambridge lecturer named Rose Fenimore who goes to an island off the coast of Scotland for vacation one summer. It's an isolated island called Moyla. Rose is staying there in a small cottage. And I remember as a teenager when I first read this thinking how cool it would be to go on a vacation like this all by myself. I still think that would be kind of cool. So one stormy night, she's in this cottage and she's awakened when a stranger arrives and she lets him in and he says that he grew up there in that house. He thought his parents would still be living there. Then another man shows up, and as the story continues, Rose learns conflicting things about both men's histories. She has to figure out whom she should trust, and she also has to figure out how to get out of some sticky situations that she finds herself in. The title Stormy Petrel comes from a bird that lives on the island. The descriptions of this beautiful, isolated island are great. I always love Mary Stewart's capable, independent heroines. There's a great scene where Rose gets cut off by the tide one night and has to spend the night in a tent. And the descriptions of the night sky, the ocean, the noises of the birds is just breathtaking to me. I generally reread this book every summer, so my list of good summer reads would not be complete without this one. The next book in the beach category is Bad Summer People by Emma Rosenblum. I have to admit, this book is not actually one of my favorites. I read it very quickly. I couldn't put it down while I was reading it, but it's just not one that I love. However, it fits this list because it's a thriller, or maybe more of a domestic suspense, set on a beach. It's actually a small beach town on Fire Island. The title pretty much says it all about this book. It's about bad summer people. It's about the people who come to this town on Fire Island every summer. Some of them have been coming since childhood. They know each other really well. They know everyone's likes, dislikes, and secrets. One summer, someone on the island is murdered, and the book is about who committed the murder. It's a good summer read because it's fast and exciting. It takes place over the course of a summer. It has lots of fun summer events like beach parties, tennis matches, a July 4th celebration. It's a good, fun summer read, even though it's not one of my favorites. Finally, I have two more books to recommend for the summer. They don't take place on a boat or on the beach, but they do take place during the summer and they have great summer vibes. First is The Fiancé by Kate White. In this book, the main character's name is Summer, so you know right away that it's going to be a good summer book. Summer goes to her in law's estate in Connecticut with her husband and her 9-year-old stepson. They're going to spend a couple of weeks there in July, just relaxing and being with the family. Her in laws are very rich and they have a beautiful house with lots of gardens and land surrounding it. They have a guest house where Summer and her husband and stepson are staying. The house has tennis courts and a pool. And so Summer is just looking forward to a relaxing vacation with her family. But Summer's brother brings a new girlfriend named Hannah. Hannah and Summer are both actresses, and Summer recognizes Hannah because they were in a show together a while back. But Hannah claims not to recognize Summer. So, for various reasons, Summer doesn't like Hannah, but Hannah charms everyone else in the family. Then her brother in law announces that he and Hannah are engaged. Shortly after that, someone dies. The death is blamed on natural causes, but Summer begins to suspect that it was actually murder and that Hannah is involved. The book is very tense and twisty, and it has great descriptions of summery activities like swimming and eating outdoors, hearing cicadas, relaxing. It's just a really fun book to read in the summer. The last summer thriller that I'll talk about is Such a Quiet Place by Megan Miranda. It's been a couple of years since I read this book, and I don't remember it perfectly, but I remember the whole time I was reading it, I was thinking that this would be the perfect book to read in the summer. It's set during the summer at a neighborhood called Hollow's Edge, where almost everyone is an employee of the same community college. It's a very active neighborhood during the summer because they're all out of school during that time. There are lots of neighborhood pool parties, get togethers, barbecues. The neighborhood has access to a lake, so that's active in the summertime too. But of course, the neighborhood isn't actually as quiet as it seems. A couple who lived in the neighborhood was murdered, and another woman who lived in the neighborhood, Ruby, was arrested for their murder. Ruby goes to prison, and the rest of the neighbors are basically trapped in this neighborhood because nobody wants to buy their houses now that a murder has taken place there. But Ruby's conviction gets overturned. And at the start of the book, she is planning to come back to this neighborhood. Several of her former neighbors testified against her. Some of them may have lied, and Ruby definitely holds some grudges. The protagonist is actually a woman named Harper Nash, who owns the home where Ruby lived with her as her roommate. Harper gets some threatening notes after Ruby's return, and she has to figure out who the real murderer is before she or someone else gets murdered. The book is very suspenseful, and as I said, it's perfect for summer because it takes place during the summer and it's full of fun summer activities. So there you have it. Some great mysteries and thrillers that are quick page turners with summary settings. I hope you'll decide to read some of these books this summer. If you do, please let me know what you think. Also, if you have any recommendations of good summer mysteries or thrillers, please drop them in the comments. And of course, if you liked this video and want to get more book recommendations and reviews, please subscribe. Now, go swim in your pool while I read.